Welcome to Mission Control, everyone. As your exam flight director, I'm absolutely thrilled to guide you through this explainer on decoding one of the most notoriously misunderstood topics in the Cambridge Accounting 9706 syllabus. Look, we are treating your upcoming exam paper exactly like a high-stakes flight system, one that requires absolute, perfect execution. Today, we're taking a multi-part past paper question, what we call the objective on our central console screen, and we're going to break it all down. We're going to look at the telemetry, analyze the flight paths of past students, and make sure you have the exact coordinates to secure maximum marks. So strap in, because we are ready for launch.
Let's kick things off with this absolutely crucial question. Why is this so difficult? Well, examiners consistently report that students struggle because, quite frankly, they fly blind. They don't have a systematic protocol for tackling these complex texts and datasets. In our simulation today, we're actually going to be tracking two hypothetical student pilots on our radar, who perfectly represent the most common errors we see every single year. First up, we have pilot Alex. Now, Alex tends to overcomplicate data calculations, burning way too much time and fuel trying to find some mathematically perfect number, completely ignoring the overall process. And then we have pilot Sam. Sam is the opposite extreme. Sam totally ignores structural boundary constraints and formatting, basically risking a complete systemic breakdown of the answer. We're going to monitor their approach trajectories and learn from their mistakes so you can fly right past them.
All right, here is our pre-flight checklist for today. We'll hit Accounting System Core Principles, the Procedural Execution Framework, the Method Mark Strategy, Top 3 Examiner Warnings, and finally, Mastering Critical Evaluation.
Okay, let's dive straight into Phase 1, Accounting System Core Principles. Establishing that theoretical architecture is our first mission.
You literally cannot navigate a complex exam question without a solid theoretical compass. Let's strip away all the noise for a second and look at the absolute core of the issue. The entire foundation of your knowledge rests on precise definitions and understanding the strict cause and effect relationships at play here. Under- and overabsorption is, honestly, simply what happens when our flight projections just do not match our actual flight data. We make estimates, right, based on budgeted overheads and budgeted activity levels, but, as we all know, reality is rarely perfect. When our actual overheads or our actual volume of activity deviates from those initial estimates, we end up either absorbing too much cost into our products, which is overabsorption, or not enough, underabsorption. Fully grasping this causal relationship, that is your primary navigation tool. Now, as we monitor the approach trajectory, we need to treat command keywords in the exam as vital system parameters to clear orbit. Principal examiner reports explicitly highlight that candidates who demonstrate a connected, conceptual understanding, an understanding that actually transfers to unfamiliar contexts, are the ones who achieve those top marks. This isn't just about overheads existing in a vacuum. You've got to ask yourself, how does overabsorption affect inventory valuation? How does it impact the income statement and reported profit? If you can integrate this topic with marginal costing or financial reporting, you are showing the examiners that you are a top-tier pilot who sees the entire accounting landscape, not just a single blinking instrument on the dashboard. Moving on to Phase 2, the Procedural Execution Framework. We need to treat this exam question like a highly structured technical operation. You absolutely must deconstruct the stimulus materials using this standardized sequence. It ensures systematic processing without risking a systemic breakdown. Remember our friend pilot Alex? Well, Alex constantly jumps straight to step 3, basically mashing numbers on a calculator without extracting the data properly or selecting a framework first. And guess what? It leads to a crash. You need to follow the sequence. First, extract the data. Isolate the estimated and actual figures from that dense text block. Second, select your analytical framework. Are you using labor hours or machine hours? Third, execute your calculations, showing every single step with clear notation. Fourth, verify your results. Do a quick gut check. Does this number logically make sense? And finally, present the information clearly. Treat each of these steps as non-negotiable system parameters.
And this brilliantly illustrates the need for professional skills, because presentation in this topic follows strict, non-negotiable conventions. This right here is where Pilot Sam usually fails our simulation. Sam gets the right numbers, sure, but writes them scattered all across the page with zero headings or labels. Let me tell you, examiners are not going to hunt for your answers in a debris field of random numbers. You must use appropriate formats. You must use correct terminology like overhead absorption rate or OAR and clear annotations. Treat your exam paper as a professional, highly polished report being handed directly to the board of directors.
All right, engaging Phase 3, the Method Mark Strategy. This is about securing your trajectory by prioritizing the process over just the final calculation.
This examiner alert is literally the most crucial point of our briefing. Your method marks act as an essential safety net if your final data calculation burns too much fuel and goes totally off course. Now, before we fire the secondary boosters to secure maximum marks and truly optimize your flight path, I need to pause the simulation for a critical mid-flight directive. Subscribe to Ace the Exams at the handle @AceTheExams right now and turn on all notifications. This is your direct line to mission-critical exam strategies, so don't miss out. Okay, simulation resumed. Imagine you're writing your answer and you hit a massive roadblock mid-paragraph. Your evidence links start to fail. You need to immediately override the console. When this happens, I highly recommend injecting the Peel structural template into your written answers to save the trajectory. Point, evidence, evaluation, and link. If your math is slightly off, but you effectively use Peel to structure your written explanation of how those overheads are absorbed, examiners will still award you those life-saving method marks.
Always execute your analysis with clear, step-by-step working. This way, examiners can easily track your logic and award those vital process marks. Think of it as leaving a super clear contrail right behind your aircraft. If the examiner can see exactly how you derived your overhead absorption rate and exactly how you applied it to the actual hours, they are going to give you credit for the process. Even if, actually, let me emphasize this, even if you accidentally typed a wrong digit into your calculator at the very end, the process is the performance.
Let's shift our instruments over to Phase 4, Top 3 Examiner Warnings. This is our live debris detection phase.
Guys, we have to take this warning from the source material incredibly seriously. When a principal examiner goes completely out of their way to call a topic one of the most misunderstood areas, it means the radar is just lit up with student errors year after year. Let's make absolutely sure you aren't a blip on that radar.
These are the top 3 systemic errors you absolutely must avoid: mixing up causal relationships, ignoring structural formatting boundaries, and failing to tie your evidence to the specific context. Actually, let's do a live interactive viewer radar challenge right now. We are running 2 rapid-fire simulations. Simulation 1, I want you to imagine a highly complex source graph on your console, and I'm starting a 60-second visual countdown clock on our screen to locate the hidden core variable, usually budgeted hours versus actual hours. You have to spot it fast. Simulation 2, debris detection. You need to identify the specific sentence where a sample answer falls below compliance standard. Let's look at one. The business has underabsorbed overheads, which is bad, so they should increase prices. Think about that for a second. Where's the systemic failure? Yep, hit the nail on the head. It's bullet point number 3. It is entirely, completely generic. Why did the specific business underabsorb? Was it a sudden rent increase? Or did a machine breakdown cause actual labor hours to plummet? You cannot give generic textbook answers. You must dock your theoretical knowledge directly to the specific data provided in the exam scenario.
Finally, Phase 5, Mastering Critical Evaluation. Let's fire our secondary boosters and look at how to reach the absolute highest scoring bands.
To master these higher-order assessment objectives, your answers must logically evaluate alternatives, compare approaches, and provide firmly justified recommendations. For instance, if the question asks whether a company should change its basis of apportionment from machine hours to direct labor hours, you can't just flip a coin and pick one. You must evaluate the alternatives. What are the clear benefits of machine hours in a highly automated factory? What are the glaring drawbacks? Your final recommendation has to be justified by the hard evidence you've already calculated and extracted from the scenario.
Notice how this logically builds. You must move way beyond a basic descriptive level and actively push your answers into the analytical and evaluative frameworks to secure maximum marks. Descriptive answers just tell the examiner what happened. Like, overheads were overabsorbed by $5,000. Frankly, that's just basic telemetry. Analytical answers step it up and explain why it happened. Overheads were overabsorbed because actual production volume exceeded budgeted capacity by 10%. Now, evaluative answers, that's the highest here. They tell the examiner what this actually means for the business going forward. Because of this overabsorption, the current pricing strategy may be making the products uncompetitive, and management should critically review their initial budgeting assumptions for the next quarter. That is how you score top marks.
This level of writing means rigorously testing the quality of the evidence by finding the limitations and assumptions and clearly explaining exactly how they affect the final conclusions. When you are writing your evaluation, don't be afraid to point out that an overhead absorption rate is, fundamentally, based on an assumption. It's just an estimate made before the year even begins. Expose that limitation. Recognize that in a highly dynamic business environment, fixed costs rarely stay perfectly fixed. By providing alternative interpretations, you are showing the examiner that you are a master of the accounting system's entire framework, fully capable of high-level strategic flight.
Keep this final, provocative thought in mind as your ultimate pre-flight question scan checklist for exam success. Are you going to be just a passenger reading the dials, or are you the flight director controlling the entire system? Well, I'm happy to report that our simulation pilots, Alex and Sam, have successfully corrected their trajectories using these exact protocols and have confirmed a full-mark touchdown sequence. Now it is your turn. To finalize your exam flight path optimization, make sure you subscribe to Ace the Exams at the handle @AceTheExams. Enable that notification bell so you never miss a vital briefing, and drop a comment below right now sharing your specific subject and tier. Let's get that radar locked in. Until the next masterclass, keep your calculations absolutely precise and your evaluations highly critical. Mission accomplished.